Alabama and BYU, 7:09 p.m. Eastern. We're off the air at 7. 9 minutes later, BYU and Bama in the East region for the right to lose to Duke, probably in the Elite Eight. Where do we stand right now with Alabama and BYU? How has the line moved in this game for Thursday night?
Yeah, what we're seeing with this game is that a lot of respected bettors who influence where the numbers go in the market, they like Alabama, and they also like it to the over, which makes sense. You feel like that would be correlated. Like a lot of Alabama games, for those of you who've watched them or just picked up watching them with the NCAA tournament over the last weekend, like Bama plays at an incredible pace. I believe they're the fastest team tempo-wise in the nation. So if Bama's going to win the game, you would think that this game typically would go over. So we're at 175.5. This opened 171.5. I'm getting to the point where I'm like a little bit hovering over the button on under 175.5, but let's see where this goes to tomorrow. But I probably will have a bet on the under side. No real opinion for me. I could see it going either way, but I want to play the under with the total.
I said this on Monday, and I'm gonna hold strong here. I think with the way Bama plays, all offense, no defense, I think they are way susceptible. Like losing in any game, really. But in this game, with the way BYU can score, I would say, like, screw the points almost. Like, why bet BYU plus 5.5? I think if the game's going to be really close at the end, they could definitely win. I would just play BYU on the money line at plus 185. That would be my thought on the game. BYU to win straight up at plus 185 at BetMGM. All right, Femi, we move to the West region, the second game sequentially on Thursday night. The number one seed in that region, the Florida Gators, taking on a Maryland team that beat Colorado State in buzzer-beating fashion on Sunday. Femi, what about Florida and Maryland tomorrow night?
Yeah, I find this one really, really interesting because it feels like we hit the peak yesterday and also this morning as we're seeing the respected bettors. They're betting Maryland now. They're now betting the Maryland Terrapins. This was as high as 7. We're now down to 6. But what makes this interesting to me is that usually when the underdog gets bet, you see the under also get bet. Because, like, think about it. If the game is going to be a little bit closer, maybe it's lower scoring, that's how the underdog stays competitive with the favorite team. Well, the over is actually getting bet. So it's Maryland and the over. We're now out to 158. I think that's a little bit too high. So I'm going to have 2 bets on this game. I bet some plus 7. 6, smaller bet on Maryland at that range, but the main bet that I like in this game would be under 158 because I think the only way Maryland keeps it competitive is if they try to slow the tempo down because Florida's got all that depth, and Maryland, nicknamed Crab 5, not a whole lot after that starting 5. I think the Terrapins are going to have to slow things down a little bit, so let's go under 158, but I also like Maryland plus the 7. If you can find 6 as well, smaller bet for me at 6, 6.5 obviously better, so shop around, but I like Maryland, and I also like the under.
I do think, Femi, Florida's going to win. Famously, I predicted and bet that we would have all 4 1 seeds in the Final Four. So I'm not going to pick Maryland to win. I do think I don't think the point spread is not disrespectful to Maryland. Like the betting market, it says this is what the line is. It's not disrespectful. I just think my opinion is it's a little too high for Florida to be favored by more than 2 full possessions against Maryland. When, look, Florida's got all the depth, but Maryland's got awesome. Florida does too. Maryland's got great top-end talent. The one thing that makes me a little nervous, we're expecting Kevin Willard to leave Maryland and take the Villanova job, right? We think that's probably going to happen. Does that impact things at all? I'm willing to bet that it won't. Femi, I'm with you here. Likely going to take the points with Maryland coming up tomorrow night. We'll finalize our card tomorrow. We move on. Duke, who I think is going to win the national championship. I would very much like for them to win. Femi, what's happening with Duke against one of their old tournament rivals, Arizona, on Thursday night?
Yeah, we're going back and forth with this game. Like, whenever this gets out to 9.5, which is where it currently sits with the Blue Devils favored by 9.5, that's when you get interest with Arizona. And we had Drew Dinsick, our NBC and Peacock teammate, on with us on Tuesday. And Drew says at 9.5, he liked Arizona. So I don't think he's alone. So I think we're going to continue to go back and forth here between 9.5, with a lot of like respected bettors who look at things more analytically, looking to bet the Wildcats at the big number. I'm with you, though. Like 9.5, I'm betting Duke. I'm not betting against Duke, not in these games. Maybe if we get later on into the round, Final Four, or in the national title game. But in this region, I think Duke, head and shoulders above everybody else. I'd only bet Duke. I wouldn't bet one of these other teams against them. No real opinion for me on the total, but we have seen it go to the over, which usually coincides with the favorite getting bet, which has been happening kind of back and forth throughout the week here. So we were 152, now out to 154, as a lot of bettors think this will be a higher scoring game out there in Newark, New Jersey.
I'm going to treat Duke the way I treated UConn last year. Bet them in every game. I don't care what the point spread is. They're going to annihilate Arizona. Oh, Arizona's got Caleb Love. Awesome. Duke has Cooper Flag. Great. See ya. I'm betting Duke for as long as they're in this tournament. I think they're going to win the national championship. Laying Duke tomorrow night against Arizona and not even thinking twice about it. Femi, the final game tomorrow night, Thursday night, Arkansas and Texas Tech. So Tech out of the Big 12, Arkansas with the big upset. Coach Cal and company over St. John's over the weekend. What do we see here? Texas Tech and Arkansas, 10:09 p.m. Eastern tip-off on Thursday night.
Yeah, the betting market seems to think that the side is at least correct. This opened 5.5. We still sit here at 5.5 between Arkansas and Texas Tech. At that price, I'm going to like Arkansas, but I'm not messing around with the points. I'm just taking Arkansas to win the game on the money line. You can find some plus 200, plus 210 in that range. I think Arkansas is live to not just win this game, but also win the region. But in this particular game, no movement with the side. A little movement with the total, though. Like, the respected bettors went from 146.5. That was the basement with this total. Now all the way out to 148. I could see it going either way. This is probably the game where with the total, I probably feel the least confident in my opinion, which is like, I would guess that this maybe plays a little bit to the under, given the fact that, like, once again, the underdog to win, usually it's a lower scoring game, but we see Arkansas that has a lot of explosive potential as well, so maybe they actually get a lot of points on the board, but I think Arkansas is the bet for me, but no real movement on the side.
I agree with you on Arkansas being the bet. And I agree also just taking Arkansas to win the game coming up tomorrow night to advance the Elite Eight. You bet on this Wednesday. NBC Sports Now Power Hour. Nick Costos, Femi Abed Buffet, and you breaking down the Sweet 16 rounds of the NCAA tournament, all the side and total movements, and our thoughts on all the games. Femi, let's move to Friday night, 7:09 p.m. Eastern, game number 1. Our mortal enemy at this point, our nemesis, Tom Izzo and Michigan State, taking on Chris Beard and Ole Miss. What do we have here with Sparty and the Rebels on Friday night?
Well, it's March, so they're betting Sparty. That's what's happening. This is now out to 3.5, and we might go to 4 in a couple of places. Like Michigan State has treated their bettors very, very well, covering the first 2 games. So why not go back to the well as we continue to fade Sparty? For me, with the side, if it was 2.5, I'd bet Michigan State. 3.5. Now I start to get a little bit interested in Ole Miss. I don't know if I'll have a bet on the side. The total, though, is going to the under, which I understand why. Like, Michigan State is not lighting the world on fire from beyond the arc. It's a Chris Beard team on the other side with Ole Miss, really good defensively. We've gone from 144.5 to 143.5. So if I had to bet anything in the game, I think it'd be a slight lean to the under.
I think Michigan State stinks. I think they have avoided the fate that befell St. John's, a team that can't shoot, because they played 2 teams in Bryant, New Mexico that didn't score enough. I think Sean Padula, Chris Beard, and Ole Miss going to have it dialed up. Yeah. I'll take the points with Ole Miss. I don't want to mess with the money line here. Ole Miss plus 3.5, getting more than possession. Love that bet coming up on Friday night. Femi, the third meeting this season, round 3 between Tennessee and Kentucky. Kentucky actually won the first 2, but the Vols, 4.5-point favorites in this game, 144.5 the total in the Midwest region to go to the Elite Eight. What do you like in that one?
Yeah, for me, I think it's going to be on the total. The side, I'm not really strong on that. Like, I think a lot of respected bettors have been betting this towards Kentucky. This was 5, now down to 4.5. There's even a 4 out there as well. The total is what interests me, and I better grab it now because a lot of people like the under with this game. Opened 146.5, down to as low as 144. Familiar opponents, conference opponents, in a big cavernous dome out there at Lucas Oil Stadium in Indianapolis. I could see the offensive output just being a little bit worse than what is expected. So I like the under in the game between 2 SEC foes, and one of them will march on to the Elite Eight.
We will close, Femi, with 2 1 seeds here. And I'm not going to have I don't have a strong opinion on that game right now. I think Tennessee is going to win. I don't know if the Vols are going to cover the spread. Auburn in the South region, the 1 seed, taking on Dusty May and Michigan. Femi, what's the movement been here, side and total, Auburn and Michigan?
The respective bettors are moving this to the favorite and to the over. This was 8, now we're out to 9. I wouldn't be surprised if we see 9.5 before tip-off Friday night. The total, that was 151.5. Now we're up to 154. So more and more money coming in on the over. I lean towards Auburn. Like, if I had to bet the game, it would definitely be Auburn. I think Michigan, this is where the kind of the voodoo magic comes to an end against what I think is the best team in the country.
Yeah, I think if you like Michigan in the game, like you, the person watching or listening, and you think the Wolverines are going to keep the game close, I would just bet Michigan to win. Like, that's their whole deal. They get you in a close game and they win at the end because, like, their coach is awesome. I don't think the game will be close. I think Auburn's going to blow them out. I'm going to lay the points with Auburn and feel really good about it on Friday night. And we close, Femi, with the 4th and final number 1 seed, Houston, taking on the Big Ten Player of the Year, Braden Smith, and Purdue. What do we see here? Who do they like with Houston and Purdue?
Yeah, a little bit of a Houston road game with Purdue only being 60 miles away from Indianapolis. But they like Houston, and they like the under. This went up from 7.5 now to 8 with the Houston Cougars, the favorites. I love the under in this game. That was my bet that I've already placed. This was 133. Now it's down to 131.5 out there in the market. I think that, once again, Lucas Oil Stadium, I want to be on the unders in these big cavernous setups where the backdrops are a little bit unfamiliar. And with at least a great defensive team in Houston, Purdue not so much. But I think that we'll see Houston kind of smother the Boilermakers Friday night. So I like the under in the game.
Is the only time that people that do sports and sports betting content, the only time of the year that we say cavernous is this time of year, right? When college teams play in big stadiums?
Correct.
Like we actually don't use the word cavernous outside of like this time frame every single year, right? That's not just you. That's me. It's a lot of people.
It's everyone. Yeah, it's the only sport where they take the game and they put it into like a bigger area.
Cavernous.
Cavernous. Like imagine playing a
football game. If you had to choose between
a highway or something.
If you had to choose between a stalactite or a stalagmite, which would you choose?
Stalactite or stalagmite?
Yeah.
Let's go stalagmite.
I choose Houston. They're going to bully Purdue so bad, like they would get canceled for it. Love Houston.